Tip number 1. Okay, when you're putting a new line on your spinning reel or your bait caster or your deep sea fishing rod, take the tag end of the line and just tie an overhand knot. Go through one time, but then bring your line back through again, like another overhand knot. So you do it double. I don't know if that's like a loop knot or what you call that, but you do it twice and pull that tight. And the next thing that you want to do is just tie a slip knot. So make a loop like that, and then take this, wrap it around, and then bring it through this little loop here. I think everybody knows how to tie a slip knot. Just tie a slip knot like that, and then where you tied that double overhand knot, trim that off right on the very edge of that. You can take your slip knot and you can just pull that up, get it so that your overhand knot comes up tight to your slip knot, like that. Thread your line through your fishing eyes on your fishing rod, open the bail on your spinning rod, and then just take that slip knot loop, place it over your spool, and then pull that slip knot loop tight. You can just work that up nice and tight, like that. Flip your bail over, and there you go. When you get ready to take it off, it makes it really easy when you go to take it off because it's a slip knot, right? Number 2. All right, guys, this next tip is awesome. When you're attaching braided line to monofilament or fluorocarbon, this next tip is going to make your life a whole lot easier. Take a small crimp weight, a split shot, and crimp it right onto the end of your braided line, like that. Braided line is so fine and it's hard to handle, especially like if you're out in the wind. But some of you guys have got shaky hands, or you may have arthritis, or it just may be difficult for you to grab things. And I'm telling you, this little weight on the end is going to make it a whole lot easier for FG knots, uni knots, Albright knots, clinch knot, all different kinds of knots. It'll make your knot tying easier when you're using braid. So I'm going to tie an Albright knot to the mono backing on my spinning reel, and I just want to show you. I create that loop, I can drop that right through there, I can pinch the line here, and just look how easy it is for me to grab a hold of that braided line and spin that around, because I have that split shot on the end to grab a hold of. It'll also help you when you're cinching down that braided knot. It'll help you be able to cinch it down. Now, I'm not going to waste your time showing you the Albright knot. You guys can figure that out. The tip is just put that small crimp weight on the end of your braided line. It'll make your knot tying go faster, and it'll be a whole lot easier. Number 3. All right, guys, your next tip, any kind of knot that you're tying with braided line to mono or fluorocarbon, especially an FG knot, uni knots, or if you're just tying like a Snell knot on a hook, super glue can be your friend. Now, I just tied this little Albright knot here. I did a good job on it, but I'm just going to put a little dab of super glue on there to secure that knot even better. Braided line has a tendency to slip, and especially if you're tying braided line to fluorocarbon, the fluorocarbon is a lot more slippery than monofilament. Don't ask me why, it just is. But I'm telling you, add a little drop of super glue to your knots, and it'll work out great. I mean, I've done this with Snell knots on hooks. Just get that hook snelled and just put a little drop of super glue on there. Guaranteed that knot will never come apart. We're going for 4. All right, so this next tip's a really good one. So I've got my fishing line. It's all threaded. It's threaded through all of the eyes on my fishing pole, right? I've got my tag end of braid. I don't know how I'm going to rig this up until I get ready to go fishing. So what I'm going to do with the tag end is I'm just going to put it through the eye like that. I'm going to tie an overhand knot, just one overhand knot, just one granny, like that, okay? Next, I got the tag end here and the main line here. I'm going to start doing this like I'm going to tie another overhand knot, but the thing is the tag end, I don't pull it all the way through. I just pull it halfway through, and then I tighten it down, and that creates just one bow side on there and a tag end. And so then what I would do is I would just reel my fishing line up tight to the rod. When I get ready to go fishing and rig this, all I have to do is just pull this tag end, and it'll pull right off of there, slide right off like that. And you can do this when you're out there fishing. If it breaks off, you're finished fishing. Rather than reel your line all the way up through your fishing rod into your reel, and then you would just have to rethread your eyes, just do the same thing again. This next tip, you guys, these are Velcro strips right here. I use these when I play music to wrap up my music cords with, and I'll put a link to these in the description area because they have a multitude of uses. You get a lot of them for just a little bit of money, but you pull them off. These things are about, what, 8 inches long? And yeah, they're Velcro strips. Let me show you what I use these for the most. So what I have here is I have a pinfish rig, okay? On the bottom of my fishing line, I have a sinker on the bottom, and then I have a hook, and then I have a hook up here. Okay, so anytime that you have a rig where you have a sinker on the bottom, if you don't have it on a snap swivel, this Velcro strip is going to come in really handy. Let me show you why. So let's say you're going to take your hook, right? You're going to hook it onto the eye of your fishing rod, or you're going to hook it somewhere else. We always have that sinker hanging down. So if you're walking, traveling in your car, you're traveling in your boat, that thing is always swinging around. And you know what? It's going to get tangled up. Yeah, so to stop that sinker from swinging around, you can see where I'm going with this. I'll just take a Velcro strip and I'll wrap that sinker around the rod. You can see there, that'll keep that sinker from getting all tangled up. Show you another tip when you rig like this with a sinker. Another alternative that works pretty well is just take your line and put it like right here where the reel handle adjoins, and you can wrap your line right inside of that groove. And that will also keep that sinker from flopping around and getting tangled up. Just remember which way you wrap this, otherwise you're going to be really frustrated trying to get it undone. Number 6. Show you another use for these Velcro strips. A buddy of mine showed me this. We were traveling in his pickup truck. We were going a long distance and we had our rods hanging over the tailgate of his truck. And so what we did is we took several rods like this and we just bound them together with the Velcro straps in a couple of places, and yeah, that kept the wind from, you know, blowing the rods around and causing everything to become a mess. Keeps everything in order. This next tip involves any bait bucket that is like this, and also an aerator. A lot of times when you go to the bait store, you get your shrimp or whatever, your minnows, you've got a long distance to drive before you get to the place that you're going to fish, and you need to use an aerator to keep your bait alive. This is a pretty cool tip right here. On the back side of your bait bucket, just take a zip tie and thread it through the holes on the back side. You have to put your hand through here. On the other side, get your zip tie on there, pull it up snug to the bait bucket. You don't want a lot of slack because you want your aerator to hold tight to the bait bucket. Once you have your zip tie on there, and just hook it right on there like that. And then you can lift that up with your handle and carry that right along with your aerator attached to your bucket. Bam! When you're using a 5-gallon bucket and you have to carry bait a long distance, these little handles, okay, when you've got a bucket full of water and a bunch of bait, these little handles are just rough on your hands, okay? Here's a tip that'll make this a whole lot more comfortable. Get your roll of duct tape. Get it started on the handle. May not be the prettiest thing in the world, but it sure will be a whole lot more comfortable than that skinny plastic handle. Tip number 9. This next tip. This is braided nylon. This is like what you would find on a ski rope. A lot of cast nets have this type of line. So if you ever have a cast net, let's say it gets hung up in the rocks and all shredded, and you're going to throw it away, don't throw away the extra braided nylon rope. This stuff works great for all different types of applications when you're fishing. Let me show you a tip here. So take the end of the line and cut it off nice and clean. Get you a lighter, torch that thing up good so we can make this so it's not going to fray anymore. Get it heated up really good. Get some water on your fingers or some spit like me, and then just take that end and pinch it like that until it's nice and pointed. Anytime you want to attach this braided nylon rope to anything, you don't actually have to tie a knot. I'll show you something really cool here. You take this We're going to put it around like that. I've got my tag end on this side over here, and this is the main side. So on the main side over here, I'm just going to take that, I'm going to scrunch it up, make it kind of fat like that. See how it's getting fatter? I'm going to hold that. I'm going to take this pointy end and I'm going to work it in there in between those braids, because inside of this line it's hollow. So now I'm going to take that tag end, and as I keep making the line fat, okay, I'm going to just push that braided line up inside of there. It doesn't really take a lot of effort. I'm just pushing this up to be fatter, and then as I'm doing that, I'm pushing that tag end inside of the rope further and further. And so you can see there how much fatter this is. So my tag end is actually pushed all the way up into this area. So now that rope is attached nice and securely. It works like a Chinese finger trap. When I pull on the main line, it just pulls those coils tight and locks into place. Gives you a nice clean connection here where you don't have any knots at all. Now, the next tip, I actually already did it. On my 5-gallon buckets, I like to have a piece of rope that's like anywhere from maybe 4 to 6 to 8 feet long. That way when I'm out there fishing, if I need to get water in this bucket, like if I'm up on a seawall and I can't reach the water, I can just throw the bucket over and then pull it back up with the line. Nice. Good. All right, the next tip, you guys, we all have big spools of line like this. We use them for leader line or whatever, and we always end up with these loose ends on the line, right? I mean, what do? You tie a piece of rubber band on the end of it. That works sometimes. Sometimes I'll take the loose end of line and I'll actually pull it up tight and I'll wedge it right here on the side, right on the corner, and then I'll pull it really hard so it just wedges itself in between the line and the spool, and that keeps it from coming off. But I have an even better solution than that. We've all got Koozie cup holders laying around, right? Captain Todd showed me this trick. He said his dad showed it to him. Now I'm getting ready to show it to thousands of people. So the Koozie cup holder, this spool of line will fit in here perfectly. And by the way, this Koozie cup holder came from Salty Scales Apparel, the best fishing apparel out there, you guys. You guys can see where I'm going with this. That spool of line fits in there perfectly, and it creates a place where there's friction or tension right on the edge. So you can pull off however much line that you want for your leader or whatever. Cut that off with your cutters, and there's your loose end. But the tension, the friction up against the Koozie cup holder keeps that line in place. So guys, you can see this is how I keep my lines from getting tangled up in my bag. I've got 80, 40, and 60 pound test in Koozie cup holders. This next tip, some of you guys have been on the channel for a while. This is a cooling towel. All you do, guys, you pull this towel out, you put cold water on it, you wring it out, then you put it around your neck. It'll help you beat the summer heat. It'll really cool you down. You can throw it back in your cooler of ice whenever it starts warming up, and as long as you keep it wet and cold, you can keep yourself nice and cool. Put a link in the description area. You can go get you one. Tip number 12. All right, guys, got my awesome red spring-loaded pocket knife. I'll put a link in the description area. But the way that I sharpen this is I sharpen this with a sharpener that subscriber Jeff sent me. It works great. I just pull it through about 4 or 5 times on the one side, and then I pull it through 4 or 5 times on the other side. But here's the tip that I want to give to you guys, and that is always save your old leather belts. They'll come in handy for a strop. And there's probably a lot of different ways you could do this next step, but I just take this and attach the leather to something. Sometimes I'll just put it on the floor and step on it. Pull it back this way a little bit. Just pull that nice and tight, and then take your knife and run it across that leather to do that fine polishing on your blade. Oh my goodness, I'm telling you what, if you go this little extra step, just running your knife on a strop, just polishing that edge, getting off all the rest of that little bit of metal that's burred on there or whatever, this right here, you guys, will help you get your knives razor sharp. I don't know if this one's razor sharp. Let's see. Look at that. What did I tell you? I ran that knife through there 4 or 5 times. That's a really quick and easy way to get a razor sharp edge on a knife. And I'm going to show you what else will do the same thing. Keep your old leather wallet. Same idea, guys. And it does the same thing as that leather belt strap. You just don't get the long strokes like you would. 13! Crazy tip here, you guys, about sharpening knives, okay? If you don't have a stone or a steel or anything to sharpen your knife with, get you a mixing bowl and just take and rub your knife along the edge of your mixing bowl like that. Just use that glass as a polishing and sharpening point for your knife. That works great. Oh yeah, that'll put an edge on there too. All right, check this out, guys. Car door, glass. Let's say you're out at the fillet table. You don't have a sharpening stone like a little squirrel. I could just like, that'd be cruel, wouldn't it? Let's say you're out at the fillet table. You don't have a sharpening stone or a steel, but your knife is dull. Just use your car door glass, the edge of it. Mike D with Jetty Rocks Fishing turned me onto this tip. Look at it. Listen to that thing, man. Putting a nice sharp edge on that knife. Yeah, baby. Woo, still razor sharp. Number 14. Your next tip is get a multi-tool. Put it in your tackle bag, your tackle box. Leave it in there. Don't take it out. If you take it out, make sure you put it back in. Listen, this thing will save you. If you forget your needle nose pliers, you'll have a set of needle nose pliers all the time. You'll have screwdrivers and knives and whatever other tools are in your multi-tool kit. Yeah, these things are reasonably priced. You guys keep them in your tackle bag. I've used this probably 5 or 6 times in the past couple of years to get me out of a pinch, and I'm really glad that a subscriber suggested that I get a multi-tool. Number 15. Are we having fun yet? And give you guys another tip for the old wallet. Braided fishing line. I tie a lot of my knots at home before I go fishing, right? And everybody knows that when you wrap braided fishing line around your hand and you're pulling a knot really tight, that braided fishing line cuts into your hand, okay? So what I do is I'll get my knot tied, then I'll take the braided fishing line and wrap it around the leather wallet like that. And that leather wallet is soft. It won't damage the braided fishing line, but you can see it just really, really grips that line, and you can cinch down on those knots really good with that, yeah. So don't throw your old leather wallets away. You'll have use for them. Boom! 16, baby! All right, guys. And while we're on the subject of leather, let me show you another awesome hack for fishing. So when you're using monofilament line and even fluorocarbon line, see how this heavier leader line gets the curlies in it? Yeah, I don't like to have the curlies in my leader line, right? So what I'll do is I'll get my fishing rod rigged up with my monofilament line. I'll take my hook, I'll put it on an eye, and then I'll tighten that up really good, right? Once I get that leader line pulled nice and tight on my rod, I'll take that piece of leather and I'll wrap it around that monofilament or fluorocarbon line that has the kinks or the curls in it. I'll put pressure on it and I'll run it up and down the line, putting pressure just like really tight, just back and forth and back and forth. And what that does is that creates friction on that monofilament line, and it'll take those curls right out of it, just straighten it out really nice and straight. 17, how many more tips does this dude have? Oh yeah, and one more tip about that little sinker that's crimped onto the end of your braided fishing line. It works great for when you're threading braided fishing line through the eyes of your fishing rod. Number 18. All right guys, when it's time to do a little bit of maintenance on your spinning reels or your other reels, I'm going to show you a couple of tricks that are really going to help you out. All right, first off, get you a little screwdriver like this that has this little spinny handle on top. It'll make working on your spinning reels a whole lot easier. You have that little spinny top on your screwdriver. You can just hold it like that and just spin that around. It also works good for spinning just by holding the palm of your hand on the screwdriver and spinning it like that. Let's say you're doing a little maintenance on your reels, you had to pull the case off. You don't have to buy expensive reel grease. Just use some petroleum jelly. I've been doing this for years, and it works great for greasing the inside of the reels. Just take you a Q-tip, get you a nice little glob on there, and just put it on the gears in your reel. There you go. Maybe 20. You're working on things and you realize, oh no, I don't have any oil for my reel. Oh, think again. Guys, you might have a whole lot more oil in your house than you realize. Some canola oil, some virgin olive oil maybe. Little canola oil, little olive oil. I can put oil anywhere on this reel. Hey, come on guys. oil is oil when you're in a pinch. It's slippery stuff, man. It's really slippery, and it works. What? 21? Let's say it's time to go catch some pinfish. You got some squid in the freezer. I always keep squid in the freezer. What I like to do before I go fishing, I pull the squid out when it's nice and frozen. Cut me a chunk off of there. Like that. Whoa. I am really making a mess here. But while the squid is nice and frozen, it is a whole lot easier to cut little bitty pieces of bait for pinfish while that squid's nice and frozen. And I always try and do this when I'm at the house. Just take a little container, cut that frozen squid up into some little bitty itty bitty pieces, because you don't need big pieces for pinfish. I mean, that's plenty big enough right there for pinfish. 22. All right, guys, you get a behind the scenes look here. This is a great tip if you have room in your freezer. Yeah, I got chicken and steak and shrimp, but here's the deal, you guys. I take plastic bottles, I fill them up with water. This is the one that I take for drinking. It thaws out, and I have nice cold water while I'm out there on the water in my kayak in the heat. I also keep very large plastic containers of frozen water. I very rarely buy bags of ice. I've saved hundreds of dollars, $2 a bag, right? Or even more than $2 a bag sometimes, by just freezing like plastic bottles like this and taking them with me to keep my catch cold. And saving more money than you spend is the name of the game, right? 23! All right, here's a tip for you. Some of you guys might live in an apartment like me. You don't have access to a hose to wash off your fishing gear. So what I do is I just run my reels under the kitchen sink, right? I rinse them off that way. But with my rods, I just dampen water, and I just wipe my rods down, and I wipe off the eyes of my fishing rods like that, just to get all of that salty goo off of them and keep them in good shape. Some of you may have seen this tip in a previous video, but white vinegar, you guys, vinegar removes rust. So you can just put some vinegar in a container like that. If you got rust on your needle nose pliers or knives or anything, just put them in that vinegar and let them soak overnight. Let them soak a few hours, and that vinegar will literally cut right through that rust. It'll loosen up those pliers that are all bound up by the rust. You can clean them off with some Scotch-Brite, some steel wool, some sandpaper, or whatever. It'll clean the rust right off of your tools, your knives, and stuff like that. Vinegar's cheap, guys. I got 64 ounces for like 99 cents. That'll go a long way for removing rust. There's so many tips and tricks, you guys. A while ago, I did a refinishing video of an old fishing rod. In that video, I had a DIY tensioner. I will put a link in the description area. You guys can go check that out. What a tensioner is, whenever you are wrapping the fishing eye onto the rod, it holds tension on that line. Oh yeah, you gotta check that out. And also, you guys, I had a video where I did DIY pompano teasers using a cordless drill. Yeah, I invested probably less than $30 in a bunch of materials. I can tie pompano teasers for the rest of my life. Thousands of dollars worth of pompano teasers I could tie with just that little bit of materials that I bought. I'll put a link in the description there. You guys can go check out that video as well. Go to the Dollar Tree, spend $1 on a mesh laundry bag. They make great chum bags. When you're at the grocery store, you get your grapefruit and your oranges and your nectarines and tangerines. You get them in those plastic mesh bags. Save those bags. They make great bags for chum. Your old fishing rods, cut the eyes off of your broken fishing rods. Don't just throw them all out, because inevitably one of your fishing rods, the eye is going to break on it. You're going to have to replace it. Then you can refer to my video where I remodeled the old fishing rod, and you see how I did that. Yeah, save those. Your old lures, guys, your Azuris, your Rapalas, your spinnerbaits. Save those for parts and pieces for your lures that you have that are still in good shape, but they need something to be replaced. There are so many tips and tricks and hacks that I learned from you guys, and I know there's a lot more that you have to share with me. There's so many that I haven't shared in this video. Thanks for coming along for this. We'll just call it an adventure, all right? Thumbs up are appreciated. Get out there and go fishing, man. Life is fun. Live it. See ya.